Hello, Internet. It is March 11th, 2021, and this is the weekly Backdrop Developer Meeting. We get together every week to talk about the latest things in Backdrop. Probably an extra special meeting in a little way here because it's the one directly before Backdrop Live that gets started tomorrow. Very exciting. Let's go ahead and do little introductions. I'll start. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm a core committer, and I live in Oakland, California. Joseph, can you introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Joseph Latt. I'm a backend developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I've been working on the reference module. So hopefully we can get that into core soon. Tim?
Hi, Tim Erickson in Deerwood, Minnesota. All busy with Backdrop Live this week, so which is tomorrow. See everybody there. Jason?
Jason Flatt from Las Vegas, Nevada, backend developer. I'm mostly here to hang out, chat, and find out what's happening for Backdrop Live, if there's anything. Who's next? Justin?
I'm Justin Christopherson. I'm in Denver, Colorado, and I help out with some infrastructure tasks here and there.
Andy,
Matthews?
would you be... Oh, sorry. Sorry, jumped in there. I wasn't sure if Matthias was going to speak. So Andy, could you introduce yourself? Might be a microphone problem.
Andy didn't act. He was at the last meeting and didn't say anything. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he's meeting and unmuting. Well, Andy is Doc Wilmot of fame in the Backdrop issue community, or in the Backdrop community, and we're glad to have you here as well, Andy. Microphone problems or not. All right.
I think I got it.
Oh, hey, great.
Sorry, wrong microphone selected on Windows. I'm not sure. So, Andy Shillingford. I live in Grand Cayman, Cayman Islands, and I tinker with lots of different bits of Backdrop. That's about it.
Great, thanks for being here. All right. Let's see. So normally Jen goes through the intro portions of this, so I'll try to do my best here. Updates from the project management committee. I do not believe there are any public announcements to be made at this time. Let's see, contributed project updates. I didn't prepare this portion at all, so we might come back to it at the end to give an update on contributed projects. Yeah, it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 or 7 new contrib projects, which is very exciting. If Jen shows up, I'll let her enumerate which ones those are. Let's see, website related tasks, backdropcms.org. We're continuing to work forward on supporting more info in, or more data in info files, issue 487 in the backdropcms.org issue queue. Last we heard, we had merged this change that supports more data in the info files and will store that information onto the project nodes on backdropcms.org. But I believe it has still yet to be deployed. There has not been a comment in the issue saying that it has. So I think that's where we are. Let's see, the API site. API site is now docs.backdropcms.org. That site continues to have new documentation pulled in. I'm not sure if anyone here is present that has any further updates on that. And let's see, lastly, the events site. Tim, I would love it if you could give an update on the events site and how well that is working for preparation of Backdrop Live.
So the event site itself it's needed some work. We've had registrations live, so people have been registering. That seems to be working okay. A few things that we will smooth out for next time. We had hoped to have a better scheduling and other features on the site, and some work has been done in just the last 24 hours, and I think we'll get some more done before we start tomorrow in terms of viewing the schedule. In the meantime, there's a Google Doc with a schedule, and that's listed on the event site. And we also have our mural that people have been using as well. So we got about 32 registrations for Backdrop Live tomorrow, which is about what I was hoping for. So that's going good. That's it.
Yeah, that's excellent. I showed our event site to a colleague of mine, and she was in love with your schedule spreadsheet. So even the website issues aside, the spreadsheet, full accolades for its organization and for detail there.
I think our biggest challenge with this event is communicating when the different sessions are across time zones. And the spreadsheet is an interesting way of doing it, but it's not the most high tech. Thanks.
All right. I'll go ahead and start the project progress report, talking about Backdrop, the project itself. First up is the next bug fix release. 1.18.2 will be that version. Issues of note include CK editor button for maximizing. After maximizing the editor, if you minimize it again, you cannot save the content. That's issue 4933. A substantial issue because it shows up out of the box and it can lead to frustration and lost data. You know, if you're posting a piece of content, then you can't actually save it. There's been no updates on this issue. It needs a front end or JavaScript developer to take a look at why this might be happening. And there's no code yet there. It's just the bug report. The issue is 4933. Next up, throw a warning if the max input vars variable is not set properly or is not high enough, issue 38 to 24. I don't think this one has had any updates recently, so I will continue on. PHP 8 support is issue 4772. This issue continues to need review. Joseph put together a pull request several weeks ago, and we can now more easily test it thanks to wider PHP support on more hosts, and DDEV and Lando now support it, so it's a lot easier to test. So we would love to get that issue reviewed as soon as possible. Let's see. I also wanted to pull up this week a trio of accessibility issues that we don't normally talk about, but there's been a lot of activity as of late, so I think it would be worth mentioning the progress that is happening on some interesting issues that's just come up recently. A lot of so the kickoff issue that started all of this in a way was that we had a new user named Mustafa Dogan 78 post an issue about the layout UI interface for dragging and dropping blocks is not keyboard accessible. So that issue is 4941. And Doc Wilmot and others have been doing a huge amount of work making it so that the blocks interface is keyboard accessible. And then on top of that, making it so that it is also accessible from a screen reader perspective. So there's a follow-up issue on top of that one, 4985, for supporting ARIA Live areas. That's like a section of the page where if you put text into it, then a screen reader will announce what text is placed inside of that area. And we're using that functionality to provide an API to make it so that when certain things occur from JavaScript, you can tell the screen reader to say a particular thing to help inform the action of what has occurred. So a good example of this might be when a dialog opens, it might be useful to tell the user, hey, a dialog has opened, because they're unable to actually see what has happened on the screen. So you can explain what's happening on the screen rather than them needing to figure it out based on changes in like input or elements or something like that. So both of those issues are pretty exciting. 4941, I believe, needs review. There was a little bit of discussion about whether it should be 118 or 119. I think considering this is a UX improvement, that alone would make it a 118 candidate or possible to put in. But it's also, from an accessibility standpoint, just a bug. So that definitely qualifies it for being in 118. The ARIA Live announcements, though, issue 4985, pretty clearly is a new API, but it is also an accessibility improvement. So I'm a little bit on the fence about where that one lives. If 4985 turns out to be like a requirement for 4941, then they might both go in. But I haven't had fully thought that one out yet, and I would love to hear if anybody else has an opinion on that. Let's see, Andy, you're here. I'm not sure if there's anything you'd like to say in particular about these issues.
Yeah, the issue 4941, as you said, it's just going to allow us to use the block add page with the keyboard. I think that by itself would be useful, and I think Mustafa Dogan 78, she had a simpler name, agrees that just allowing the keyboard operation is going to be useful. But like you say, I think it would be more helpful if you could use the announcing functionality to help with that. Because currently, if you move a block, if you press the up button, for example, if we committed what we have now in 4941, and you move a block, it's still pretty difficult for you to know where the block moved to if we don't add in some sort of announcing functionality. So I think it would be useful to have both of those, probably the API going first, and then we can modify 4941. That would be my preference. That would be my recommendation. I think it probably should be the best thing to do, because right now Mustafa did say at some point in the discussion that there were other people who he knew had looked at Backdrop as a possibility, but being unsighted users, they were hesitant to start. So I think it would be helpful, and not just helpful, I think we ought to do it. If it's unusable for a certain population, I think we should try and fix it as a bug.
And I didn't quite process what you said there fully. Do you think that both of these issues should be merged into 118?
Yeah, I think they both should go in as bug fixes. I think the API is going to make the keyboard navigation more useful. Currently, keyboard navigation, it does work, but it doesn't announce what actions you're performing. So it's still going to be helpful to have the announce API in at the same time.
Okay.
That's clear.
Yeah, that sounds fair to me. We can discuss more if there's any concerns there in the issue. Thank you for your work on that. Thanks, Mustafa, for participating and filing these issues. Can't tell you how valuable it is to have actual users telling us about the way they use the software, especially when it differs substantially from the way that we use the software. That helps us get a much better understanding of issues that we may not be aware of at all. So very valuable feedback.
Both issues are now at needs review. So If anybody wants to have a test, feel free to go right ahead.
Okay, and then another issue on top of this one that was raised just as a part of the discussion, just as a comment, that the permissions page also is really difficult to navigate for unsighted users. The way that the permissions page appears currently is that it reads the label of the permission and then it just says checkbox checked, checkbox unchecked, checkbox checked, checkbox unchecked. And you have to count the number of checkboxes and remember the order of your roles in order to know which checkbox applies to which role. It actually turns out it depends on what software you're using. Sometimes it'll read the table header, and so that can give you some indication depending on what screen reader you're using, but other screen readers do not read the top of the table. So we have this issue 4987 to start using ARIA role or ARIA attributes to properly label each one of those checkboxes. This was a regression caused by usability improvement that it used to be in 777 that 777 would print an invisible element in front of each checkbox. But that had its own frustrating problems because if you tried to Control F to find a particular permissions on the page, the permission name was repeated for each checkbox, and it would not highlight anything on the page because it was a hidden element. The world of accessibility has moved forward quite a bit, and invisible elements might have been the best tool that we had a decade ago. But since then, the introduction of ARIA attributes and the improvements to screen readers have really come a very long way, making it so that we have new options available to us. So 4987 is an exploration of how we can use ARIA attributes to make those checkboxes more accessible to screen readers. Welcome, Jen. I'll continue doing the product update. Jen, I skipped over the contrib modules, though. If you would assemble a list, then we can do a little announcement of the new contrib modules. Next up, I'm going to move on to 119, the next minor version. But if anyone has any other accessibility issues that they would like to bring up while we're on this topic, I'll pause for a second if anyone would like to interject. Okay, let's move on to 119 then. So 119 will be coming out May 15th, 2021, feature freeze around May 1st. First issue that we have here, and all of these issues are driven by having an advocate for a particular issue, and then we talk about them every week, trying to get them to move forward a little bit. First up is adding an exposed field name file name filter for the media library dialog issue 3293. We continue to need a front-end developer working on this problem. Maybe not a front-end developer, but we need a developer on issue 3293. That the way dialogues work in this particular case is complicated when it comes to the way that they interact with views exposed filters. So this continues to need some help. Next up is advanced caching, support for cache tags, and a dynamic max age cache header, issue 4127. Joseph is the advocate for this. I know that it's needed review for several weeks now. I'm not sure, Joseph, if there are any other updates you would like to note here.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Next up is field has value visibility condition for the layout UI issue 4728. Jen, you're the advocate for this issue. Are there any updates? No. Okay. It's going to be a quick update here. Adding support for relationships to layout contexts, issue 2134. Doc Wilmot is the advocate for this issue. Last we looked at this, it has some minor renaming that needs to be done on some of the classes. I don't believe there are any updates, but Doc Wilmot, could you tell us if there is anything that we should be expecting?
Nothing new yet. I just refreshed the sandbox last night just to see if I can start working on it, but hopefully soon.
Excellent. Before we move on from that one, I thought that I saw another issue that you were going to advocate for as well, but I don't have that on the agenda. Am I correct in that there's another issue that you're also thinking about, or is it one of the ones that we've already covered?
Yeah, was it the accessibility one?
Yeah, perhaps that's what I'm thinking
I'm
of.
not sure right now.
Okay, it might have been that. It might have been the drag and drop keyboard improvements. Okay, sorry about that. So Gregory is not here today. He is the advocate for this next issue, merging the update pages for core modules, themes, layouts all into a single page. The issue is 2714. Looks like there hasn't been any updates in the past couple of weeks there, so I don't think there's any update there. Next up is preventing URLs or email addresses from turning into links, issue 1926, an older one. BW Panda is the advocate for this one. Peter, could you give us an update?
Yeah, so this issue is about the, what's it called? The convert URLs into links text filter. So with that enabled, when you're typing in some text, you put in a URL or an email address, and that filter will automatically convert that into a link. And that's great, and that works. But there are times where you might not want a URL or a email address made into a link where it can be clicked on, sort of thing. For example, if you just type in like example.com or something like that when you're doing like a blog post or something and doing a demo, or I don't know, but you just want to put in a dummy email address or a dummy link, and you don't want it to be clickable. And currently there's no way of preventing links or email addresses being turned into clickable links. So this issue is about doing that, and it does that by just adding like a regular expression to the filter that filters out any email addresses or links that have a class of no link surrounding that. And that's currently working from my testing. So I just need review, the pull request needs review, code review, and some more testing. I think Olaf tested it, but said it works for him. So there's some more testing on that. And yeah, I guess any feedback as well, if anyone's got any other feedback about that.
Cool. One thing I would love to hear, I know I participated in this issue all the way back when it was open in 2016 a couple of times as well. I'm not sure if it probably was. The Seek editor had already been added at that point. And I think that this primarily applies to sites that aren't using a rich text editor. But I'd love to understand the use case that you're experiencing. Like if you are using a rich text editor and automatic link translation is happening, or just getting an understanding of the scenario that you might be in. I know you said that, if you don't want something to become a link, but I guess I'm trying to figure out what the editorial experience is where you might have that filter on, but not want it to actually activate. What kind of site that would be?
So I think this came up, like I opened this issue back in 2016. I think the result was when I was writing an article on my blog. So I've just got this filter enabled for my body field, because you just have that enabled normally. If I want to like put in a link to Backdrop website or something like that, it works. But for this particular one, I was putting in I think it was like a how-to or a demo or something with Backdrop, like, oh, and you can like do this and your email address, you just put in something like info@example.com or something. So it was like a dummy email address that I was referring to, or a dummy URL, just to give an idea of what someone could input or something. I can't remember. But so while there was other links on the page that I needed to be turned into links, in the same body field, there was this one particular link or email address that I didn't want to be clicked on because it was like a dummy one, and there was no way to get around that. I sort of explained in the original post of this issue that you can get around it by either disabling the filter or creating a new what do they call it, text format. So instead of like full HTML or whatever it's called, you can create a new one like unlinked or something, and then just have that filter disabled for that particular text format, and you can sort of switch when you need to. But again, the situation is if you want to have some links in one field that are clickable and then other links not, then that's where you come up with this issue. And this can happen with like CK editor or anything else. Like on my blog, I use Markdown, so I don't have any sort of button editor type thing. I just use like type in Markdown, and this will be the same thing. Like if you just type in a link in Markdown, and then this filter will convert that, you're also on a way of like disabling that somehow. So yeah.
All right. I was going to ask about escaping using code tags, but looks like we've had that discussion previously already, so I'm not going to bring it up again. It's funny how my immediate thought process is like, what about this? And I'm like, oh, I already raised that issue like 3 years ago. So I will refer everybody, if you're interested, why not use code tags or wrap it in escaping tags to read the issue. Including myself, a note to self, read the issue to get familiar with that again. Okay, great. That pull request currently needs review / testing. Thanks, Peter. And lastly, an issue that I'm advocating for, issue 2833. This was a follow-up from a change in menu paths for editing roles, issue 4899. That issue has already been merged into the 1.x branch for 119. A follow-up task that we've been wanting to do ever since we introduced backdrop deprecated goto, which is, or backdrop goto deprecated, there we go, which is a helpful function to just redirect from one path to another and log to Watchdog at the same time, telling site administrators that their code is using a deprecated path. Issue 2833 is a enhancement on top of that function to make it so that we have an approach to do redirects that include wildcards, such as role names, content types, anything that uses a placeholder in its menu path. John Franklin has been reviewing that frequently, which I've been appreciating, issue 2833. I think that he wanted to market RTBC, but he is not familiar with tagging stuff as RTBC, so he marked it works for me. But that needs a change record, but I think that it's really probably ready to go. If I get a second RTBC on that, that would be appreciated. And I think that's it for things that are in the 119 milestone. Oh, something else that's just worth noting, it's not in the agenda, but adding or allowing attributes to be added to backdrop add CSS. So when we have a link tag that includes a style sheet up at the top of the page, we can now add custom attributes to individual CSS files. This is an issue that HerbDuel was advocating for, but he both became an advocate and we completed it in the same week. So that will have not been mentioned otherwise in these meetings. The usefulness of this comes up when you're using a CSS file that may need something like an API key from a third-party site. A good example of this might be loading a custom font that is that has pricing attached to it, or yeah, I guess that's pretty much the best example that we've got here. But it also is just useful making it so that we can add any attribute you want to those CSS files. All right, that's it for the 119 update. Initiative updates, documentation update, kind of the unofficial initiative. Peter, you are the lead on this. I'm not sure if you have anything you would like to mention regarding the doc site this week.
No, I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I don't know if Jen's done anything with it, but nothing from my end.
Okay. Telemetry. Telemetry initiative is to start collecting more information about how people are using Backdrop and record that information into usage statistics on backdropcms.org. Tim, you are the initiative lead on that. Is there any update for this week? No. Not surprising with Backdrop Live taking all of our focus. All right. The last one is ready to wear, but that initiative is winding down, is being completed. And I think that's it. We skipped over the contrib update section at the beginning. Jen, do you want to give us an update on new contrib modules this week?
Sure, we had a ton of new contrib modules this week. There's a new release of token help, role listings, Luxon, which I think is actually a theme. No, it's a module. User time zone tokens, which is the new one Tim was talking about earlier, and SVG image support, which I'm excited about for Backdrop in general. So lots of great stuff going on.
Very cool. Well, that's the end of the agenda. If we would like to discuss anything, we kind of open the floor here for general questions and answers or discussion. Jack, I see that you have joined us. Nice to see you.
Hello, good to see you. Just dropped in to see if there was any more talk of Backdrop Live stuff. So, but happy to hear all this.
Yeah, I think that would be great if we could cover Backdrop Live for the remainder of the time that we have. Tim, looks like you're already ready to go.
I can be. We talked about it quite a bit in the previous meeting, which we didn't record. It was sort of an informal meeting. We have, well, as of last check, we had, I think, 32 registrations. We had about 50 or 60 for the previous Backdrop Live. I think we were around 60, but that was a bigger event and we promoted it a little heavier. So the 32 we have now, and I expect we'll get more. I mean, if we get to 40, I think that's pretty good. As I mentioned earlier, the website has been working for registration. We're trying to get it cleaned up a little bit more for the event itself in terms of helping with the schedule. We are experimenting with this mural board, which a number of you have tried and played around with a little bit. And we'll be curious to see how that goes. Jack and I were talking earlier about a little bit about sort of safety during the event, making sure we don't get interrupted by Zoom bombers or anything. And I think we've done okay. I think it's sort of being cautious without locking things down too much. We do need some people, and I will be pinging people directly to just sort of, well, one, to be greeters. The way the sessions are working this time, I think most of you have heard this before, but this is going out on the recording, I guess, is that rather than having different Zoom rooms for each session, we're going to have one Zoom room and breakout rooms. And the most challenging, and I think that's going to work really well, except for the fact that we really need somebody in the main Zoom room at all times. So while breakout rooms are happening, and we don't have people committed throughout the schedule. So if you're able to commit to just sort of being the Zoom volunteer, and I think along with that role would be kind of our, part of the safety team, which would be being prepared to, deal with any issues that come up, unexpected. And the kind of thing that I think is most likely is just somebody that comes with mischievous purposes to disrupt us. We have not publicly posted, well, Jen, that's a good point. Like, what are we going to just use our regular room, or should we create a special room for Zoom? We haven't announced that yet. I think we're supposed to send out. It was pointed out to me that the registration process promised people that they would get an email yesterday or today with more information. So I think we need to get that out today, and that should include a link and where to go tomorrow morning. So we need to decide: are we going to use this room or create a special one for the event? Why don't we just answer that now? Any thoughts? Go ahead.
Just for security stuff, I'd say a special one for the event would be good, since, once it's out there, it might be shared around more. So it just helps with the future. Yeah.
Sure. I'm fine with that. I don't see a real downside. Last time we were, in theory, people need to be registered to participate. However, we did, like when people were having trouble logging in, we would just share the link in Zoom or in Zulip, so we weren't super secretive about it, but we didn't like just tweet it out. So, and we don't intend to do that this time. So let's create a special room for the event. Anyways, and then if people can volunteer to help with sort of manage that, please let me know. One, you can't be in a breakout room and the main room at the same time with one computer, but I think personally, I'm going to have a separate laptop so that I could in theory monitor two rooms at once by basically logging in twice, or I could use my phone for that. And actually, that's something people could think about, is that we could use our phones is to sort of monitor the main room while listening in on a breakout session. So that's one possibility.
I haven't used Zoom in this way before, Tim, where I've used breakout rooms previously, but is it possible for people to, when they join the main Zoom, do they have to be assigned a breakout room by the moderator, or can they just join any room that's already broken out?
They can just join any room. Apparently, this is a relatively new feature in Zoom, but we have tested it a few times. So Jen, myself, Joseph, Jason have had at least 2 sessions. Go ahead.
I think that's actually like a setting, so you can have it either way.
Right. It is. Yeah.
Cool.
You have to give people the ability to join rooms. You, as the host, you choose whether to assign people or whether to let them join. But you can set it so that people can join rooms, and we've tested that. And we have had instances of people sort of getting dropped from the entire Zoom event while they're switching, but for the most part, it seemed to be working. So fairly good. So we do recommend that everybody make sure their Zoom app is up to date. So.
Okay. Yeah, great idea.
So that's our plan. And so basically the main room will be the hallway. So you, Nate, won't have to set up a laptop with a stuffed animal monitoring it like we did last time. Anybody else think of Joseph, Jen, Jason, anything else that we need to talk about, or does anybody have questions? I'll make a last pitch. We have the Zoom, the main schedule is really our spreadsheet, and I've posted links to that many times in Zulip. I can do it again. If people want to add topics, it's not too late. You'll be able to continue to add topics to the schedule. We have I think we have a pretty good mix. We have a pretty decent schedule, but we really do encourage people to think about what topics you want to talk about and go ahead and put them on the schedule. And I think that people, I still get the sense that people feel like they need to, in order to put something on the schedule, they have to have a presentation planned and all of that. And really, we're thinking about these like BOFs. It's perfectly appropriate to come there like, I have to build a multilingual site and I don't know how. So you don't have to come there and teach people to do multilingual. You could come there and say, let's talk about multilingual because I have a bunch of questions. That's a legitimate use of this schedule. And personally, I probably will use it that way. So if either go directly to the spreadsheet and add your topics, or just chat with us in Zulip and we can help you. That's it.
Great. One more thing I'd like to ask Tim, and I'm sure that this has come up already, and I apologize, I haven't been in the other meetings. Is it possible to make it easier to do the registration so that you don't need to sign up for an account to register? Because I noted that when I try to register, it takes you to a rather unfriendly access denied page and then asks you to sign up. And I was like, okay, I guess I can do that. And it looks like everyone else has done that as well. But it doesn't look as though
Sure.
you need an account on the event site in order for any other reason other than
Well,
registration.
It's a good point. It has come up before. We could do it without requiring people to create an account, but we wanted people to because we had hoped that there would be other reasons that you would actually log in. We really haven't built them out yet. People should keep in mind, though, that our goal for this site is that this is our ongoing backdrop event site. So we plan to use this for things like virtual user groups and future backdrop lives. And so I think we thought we do want people to log in and create accounts because we want to use it for these other purposes. It does re-raise that whole question, though, of single sign-on.
Yeah.
Jay.
There is also a module we talked about using that would allow you to register while logged out, and it would automatically create an account for you and send you a one-time login link. But that starts to be problematic for people who already have accounts. And so we figured the Drupal community in general is pretty familiar with creating an account in order to register for a camp. And that's mostly what we've got here. And so it probably wouldn't be too much of a hassle to ask people to do it this time. Next time it'll make a little more sense because it'll be if you're already a member, log in to register. But yeah, it does seem a little weird right now.
I have a question.
Yeah. Jack,
go.
Cool. I was also going to mention that registration account creation module that's in there. But also when my coworker Morgan signed up, she also felt very inspired to, at some point when our workload's a little better, jump on with the Civic CRM stuff, because that will help with a lot of this kind of like registration and event type things. And, you know, the sooner we get that going, the sooner we can kind of have all that information stored in one place that can be reused. Yeah. So we're trying. It's still there.
Laren also volunteered and raised the issue of using Civic CRM for registration in the future. Like after this backdrop live. I think we wrote that off, Jen, forgive me if I'm, just because we weren't quite sure how much work would be involved in using Civic CRM, but there has been discussion about using Civic CRM for other things. And it might be maybe that's the better solution, I don't know. So.
We need it anyway. So I think using the event site as an excuse is a great way to get it set up, especially if people who are signing up for the event are feeling inspired to help. I feel like we should leverage that as much as possible.
All right. You mentioned that module for registration account creation causes problems if you already have an account.
Yes.
Is that a bug? Like, do you need someone to look at that and fix it?
I don't remember. I have a ticket for on
my that seems like a bug.
I think there's a couple of ways that you can choose to handle existing accounts. I might not just all of them, but I did find a problem with the one I originally tried to use. So I'll look at it and open an issue if there's not one already.
Okay.
Jen, I don't know if you noticed, but Joseph said that he did merge a bunch of the registration pull requests. Well, you probably would have got notified. So.
Yeah, and I know you're waiting for rerolls on a couple of those, Joseph, and they're still in my inbox. I haven't given up yet.
Okay, I'm not in any rush, so.
Okay. And thank you for taking the time
whenever you have time
to review them all. I appreciate it.
Okay. Also, Tim, then, sorry, just one more thing. Maybe I'm not reading the registration list correctly here. Let's see if I go to events. backdropcms.org. There's one registration form, it looks like, and since, oh, I see, these are IDs. Okay, I got it. I was counting based on IDs, not based on numbers. I see.
Right.
So that's, I thought that there were more registrations than there were, but I see how this is happening now. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not indexed from one per
No.
event.
No.
Got it.
No.
Okay, never mind. All right. Any other questions? Well, Backdrop Live starts in pretty soon. What is it?
So it's 6 a.m. your time. Oop, yeah. Although we don't have anything scheduled at 6 a.m., so it might be that we all have an extra hour of sleep tomorrow.
Okay,
Those of
so
us
in 8 or 9 hours, is that
Yeah.
right? That seems really soon.
No, it's more.
That's
than
not
that.
right. 18
What?
hours.
16.
There we go. Yeah, that'll be the start of the event. And for anyone out there, yeah, check out events.backdropcms.org for more information. Thanks everybody for joining the meeting as always, and we'll be seeing lots of you guys tomorrow. So thank you, and see you guys then.
Right.